Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's Justin Michael, and I'm outside again because the weather is feels really pleasant. It's like 70 degrees, 68, 70 with a nice breeze. The only problem is it looks gray. It looks like it might rain. And that's kind of useful anyway because with the topic of my video here. So I'm going to show you some decks I use that I grab to go outdoors, These aren't necessarily my favorite decks. Some of them are. I'd say at least two of them are. But they're just decks I use all the time because they have like that utilitarian kind of aspect. They're useful. And so there are different reasons of why I grab certain decks. Some of them, are smaller. Some of them are waterproof. There are different reasons why. So I'm going to go through that and I'm going to show you. So I'm going to start off with this deck here. So this is decks that I commonly use on the go / outdoors, especially outdoors, because I'm outdoors a lot. So the first one is the Waite mini version. I got this version actually in a sort of a box, like a book kit. It came with a Thoth deck and the RWS and a book by Susan Levitt. It's like an introductory book to tarot. One of the best introductory books on tarot there are out there, believe it or not. And I highly recommend it. It's, if you wanted to buy that, at least the book is very, very good. But you might be better off just buying the Waite mini and then the book. But this is one of my favorite mini decks, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not the crappy Italian version that you get. This is actually, I think these were made in China, but it's just a simple case that these are just better. In a lot of ways. Number one, they have Pixie's font, which is amazing, and it has an authentic Rider-Waite-Smith feel, but they're small, and they're easy to put in your pocket. I often keep decks in my pocket when I go places, like by myself, especially if I'm walking, because if I'm meditating or if I'm just always like kind of studying and thinking about tarot. So I will have decks, and a lot of times I'll even keep this in my truck or car. But it's just a great little deck, and it's a bridge size, so it's smaller than a deck of cards. But it's just, and it has that really nice RWS look to it. It's the regular Rider-Waite-Smith, and it doesn't have that stupid typewriter font. It's great. So I use this deck a lot, I would say. This is probably my most used out of the decks I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to show you every card. And it has, of course, regular kind of back, the plaid back, and I don't know if you can buy the, I'm sure you can. I don't know if you can buy this like on Amazon by itself because it came in that book kit, but I'm pretty sure it's the made in China version. I'm 99% sure this is made in China. I don't know 100%, but it's certainly not the Italy deck, which is great. So that's the first one. Probably another deck that I use. Well, let me show you my tins. That one I just showed you, I use basically because it's small and fits in the pocket, and it's also, not the most expensive deck. So if something happens to it, it gets beat up, I don't really care. This is the Tarot of Maria Celia and Tarot de Maria Celia. I actually just posted on the Hermit's Cave like a sort of a reading I did for myself the other day, and I was surprised to see that some people actually haven't heard of it. It's one of the great tin decks, I wish there were more tin decks, I really do. There aren't as many as I would like, but I just love this. So it's an all-around Marseille style deck, and the tin is great, it's very protective, you can just toss it in the bag, you don't have to worry about it getting beat up. It's a bridge sized deck, comes with a little book. The artist's name is Leonard Jim Narciso. He has a bit of a following. I know that he has some Lenormand decks and things, some people mentioned to me earlier, but I'm not really super familiar with his work, but I do love this deck though. So I'm just going to show you a few cards here. They're not in order because this is a working deck. It's really pretty colors, and it has like an airbrush kind of feel to it. I showed you the backs, right? Here it is. So it's, you know, like I said, it's your average Marseille, but it's kind of pretty, you know, and cute. Fun little deck, you know. It's very fun. Here's the Emperor. And Le Papa. Death card. So I use this often for, especially if I'm, you know, because I've been working a lot with Marseille, and sometimes, you know, if I'm on the go, I want something small and easy that I can just pull out and just mess around with, you know what I mean? People just see and they're like, oh, he's got a deck of cards, you know, I don't even know what it is. My other tin deck, these are the only 2 tarot tins I have that are non-makeplayingcards.com. This is something I don't really use often. It's the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa Decourt. I don't really use this deck, but I figured I would show it because some of you may like this deck and not know that there's a tin version of it. So the art style is just not really my favorite. I do like it a little bit for the fact that it's very child friendly. And sometimes, you know, my young niece, she's 7, she loves, you know, she always wants me to read her cards because she's always around when I'm reading everybody else. She's like, please read my card, so I do, and I like to use these kind of decks for her. In fact, I may give this deck to her because she probably will like it. Card quality's okay, you know, it's not as good as the first deck I showed you. That's another thing about that Rider-Waite Smith. It's got that really good playing card quality, you know what I mean? It's like a deck of playing cards, like a good deck of playing cards. So the only thing I don't like is the big borders, you know, because it is a bridge-sized deck, a little longer maybe than the bridge-sized deck. But you can't really, you know, it's small, the images, so it'd be nice if they had a borderless version, but you can't have everything. I don't have this deck, like the standard size. I'm just gonna show you a few. Some of you may like that one. So those are my 2 tins that I grab occasionally, but I use the Maria Celia all the time. Probably the most common I use lately, my favorite, and this isn't small, it's kind of a standard size deck, but this is the Piata Tower de Marseille. I got this in Washington, D.C. probably for, I don't know, like, I want to say like $14. It was very cheap. And I was like, I'll probably never use this deck. But when I got home and I started playing with this deck, I loved the card quality. It's just phenomenal. It's, like I said, it's Piatnik. They're made in Austria, in Vienna. And they came out in 1984, I believe. In fact, I used this deck so much the box had to be taped up because it just gets beat up. I'm constantly throwing it in the bag. The reason I use this is because it's like waterproof, you know? If it starts to rain like it might today, you know, I don't have to worry about the cards getting wet. I can toss them around in the grass and just wipe them off when they're done. They're almost plastic. They aren't plastic, I don't believe technically. I think it's just lamination. But they're almost plastic. And look at those backs, just those nice blue backs. I don't know, when I look at it, it just makes me feel so good. It's like, it's just a great, great deck. Great Marseille deck. Just really grow on me, this deck. And like I said, I don't think it's plastic because although it feels plastic, you know, when you have it, when you hold it like this, you can feel the paper. So it's definitely lamination. It's just a hard type of lamination. Very well made, and it's an older style of Marseille. I don't know the history of this particular deck, you know, who the artist was and so forth, but it's just one of my favorite tarot decks. I love it. Shuffles like a dream. This is a must-have. In fact, I want to get a backup copy because I feel like, you know, they're a bit rare, and I've seen all different prices. I've seen, you know, people trying to get $60 for this deck on eBay, but you know, that's not surprising. But I think Amazon has them for like $20 right now, something like that. I have to get a backup copy just to hold for the long game because I don't want anything, you know, if I finally wear the crap out of this deck, I want to have it back up. There's the Ace of Wands. It's got a really cool kind of style to it, you know. It's very old-fashioned, and the colors are like very, you know, faded. It's like, it's hard to explain, but it's very charming. It has a nice charm to it. I'll show you two more. I don't know if I showed you these cards yet. I might be showing you them for the second time. There's the moon. All right, and I think the deck, well, I have two more decks I'll show you. So the this is really one of my favorite decks, this one. I highly recommend it. Piata. Show you the back. Oh, there's the price. $14.99 I paid for that in Washington. It's great, great little deck, man. This is the this is another deck I grab, you know, for outdoors. And this is a Carol Herter deck. This is my Starlight, and I'll tell you, you know, I was very nervous about using these at first because I didn't want to ruin them because they're somewhat pricey and I love them so much. But these are really durable cards, actually. And now that I have a few of her decks, you know, it's not the end of the world if one of them gets beat up. So I try and, you know, take care of the others. But this one I use a lot, and it's in very good condition because, you know, they really hold up because of the lamination. They feel like on the thin side. You know, we've been through this with the Carol Herter cards. If you're familiar with Carol Herter, she makes her decks at home. She gets them professionally printed, but she has a big roll laminator, and she her and her husband Dirk do everything at home. But I love this deck for outdoors because it's small. This is the medium size, and like I said, it's waterproof, so you don't have to worry if it rains or if it gets a little dirt on you. Just wipe it off. So this is one of the better decks for the outdoors for me, and it's extremely beautiful. They all come signed by her. It's signed and dated. So love that Chariot card. In fact, I got a sample. She sent me when I got my first deck, which was I got the illuminated border, black border design, BBD, the illuminated, which is her original. This is the Starlight illuminated. And she sent some, you know, samples, which she always does, and that was one of them, the Chariot. And I saw that, and I was just floored by how beautiful it is. And of course, if you like Rider-Waite Smith, you know all the symbolism. This is just a recolored version. It's a unique version, but all the symbolism is there. So, and of course, I like that this has no titles. I don't need titles. I've been reading with this deck my whole life, so I don't really need titles. I know all the cards, but she does have titles available if you want them. I don't like titles with her deck because Carol has a strong opinion about the order of tarot and everything, and she's rearranged Waite's stuff, and she's renamed some cards. It's like her deck, you know, which is completely understandable, but I personally love the artwork. I just didn't like all the other stuff, so that's my only thing with her decks. I have a walkthrough of this, I believe, or I at least showed most of the deck, I think, a while back. So if you wanted to see a full walkthrough, you can go back on my channel. I think that's it. I have one last one I'm going to show you, which is also in the bag. This is a Terra de Marseille. The reason I grabbed this is because it's in an inexpensive deck, and it's in a bag, and I just toss it around everywhere. It's got these really cool green backs, and it's the AGM Terra de Marseille. It's the Convo. It's not the Convert. It's very similar to the Convert. You can tell it's probably based in part, but it was done by an artist. I can't remember his name, and I won't remember it right now. I'm drawing blanks, but it's an all-around kind of all-purpose Terra de Marseille. It's pretty thick matted cardstock, you know what I mean? But if something happens to these, you know, I just order another one because they're pretty inexpensive. This deck didn't come in a box like by itself. It came with a book. It's AGM's like Terra de Marseille kit or something. I forget the people who wrote the book, but the book is not my favorite. It's not really a good Terra de Marseille book at all. But I just happened to buy it, and it's actually Library of Oracles. So it's AGM Library of Oracles was what's on the deck, on the box. Full. So like I said, it's just a standard kind of Marseille deck. So, but I think that's about it. So these are all decks that I just kind of reach for when I go outdoors. The spring is here, you know, even though we got this COVID-19 shit still happening, you know, most of us are trying to get outside, and I figured I would just show you the decks that I use mostly when I'm out. So leave your questions and comments below, and I'd love to hear some people's recommendations, or, you know, if you want to you know, share which decks you use when you're outdoors, that would be cool too. So anyway, this is Justin Michael, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.